In Dodoma was a foreman on a small bridge project. By the time I came there, they had built the abutments 6 feet high, 40 feet wide, and they had transported 3 2,000-pound, 40-foot steel I-beams, and their next task was to raise the beams 6 feet up and put them on top of the abutments and then bolt them down. I was considering already designing a small crane to be attached to the back of a truck, and that would be simple for me. So 2 days later I got out there. There are all 3 beams on top of the abutments with no evidence about how they got up there. 10 men, 2,000 pounds each, and I'm staring at that thinking, how did they do that? And the 10 men are standing there with the foreman almost at attention with this big smile on their face. I walk up to the foreman and I went through the ritual as you did in Swahili. Habari gani, habari yako, habari za this, how's your family, how's your dog, how's your mother, how's your father, and we're going through all of the greetings which are so important in the relations between people. And all the time he's got this grin on his face, and these 10 men have got their grin on their face, and all the time I'm looking out of the side of my eyes at these 3 beams. How in the hell did they get up there? So we finally get over all of this greeting stuff. Okay, how did you do it? He looked at me and he did this. I used this. That's what God gave it to me for. And then he didn't tell me how they did it. Nothing I could do or say would cajole the solution out of him. 2 weeks later, he told me how they did it. They put 10 men on one side of the beam. They said Harambe, which meant let's all together, and they all together lifted an inch or 2, and they threw little tiny rocks underneath it. And then they shovel dirt around it, gravel and dirt. Then they did that to the other side. They now had lifted this beam an inch or 2, and then they lifted the other end an inch or 2. And after an interminable length of time and shoveling tons of dirt, they had lifted these beams 6 feet high, and then all together lifted one end and got it on top of the abutment. And they were working fast. They were working fast because they didn't want me to know how they did it. And they worked with a will to shovel away all that dirt so that nobody could see how they did it. And I drove up and saw the 3 beams up there, and those 11 people staring at me with this grin on their face. And it worked. Absolutely incredible what you can achieve if you have the time, the will, and the manpower. They did a great job. He used his head. That's what God gave it to him for.